happen as well.
Oftentimes if you're enthusiastic and you're really keen to listen to them and hear their story and link it to the topics and ask them to reflect, and that people will usually sort of come on board with that over a bit of time. Like we know from the research, it kind of doesn't matter what gets you in the room, but once you're in the room, most people get a little bit of benefit out of that group space. And so even if people are initially a little bit resistant perhaps, then once they're in the room, if they can form a good relationship with people and with facilitators, they're likely to get something out of that group. Not pushing against the resistance is really important, trying to understand where it's coming from. You know, group is scary. You're asking people to come into a room with a whole range of strangers and open up and talk about their lives and trust that that's going to do something for them. And it can take a little bit of time before people warm up and are ready to be themselves and open up. So yeah, but I think, you know, that validating, supportive, encouraging approach and sticking with it really, you know, it invites people to be part.
I think something that's really important to be mindful of when co-facilitating groups, particularly with offending clients, because often they do have quite significant histories of trauma or present in a certain way, is splitting. Splitting's often when you'll find what they'll do is something will happen and then they might be really, really positive towards one facilitator and quite negative towards the other, or say things like kind of, oh, but they're far more experienced, or try and split it in that regard. So it's about trying to kind of, I guess, tear that relationship and then cause some friction within the group. So I think it's really important to build a good rapport with your co-facilitator and kind of plan the sessions in regards to balancing out who may ask the more challenging questions, these who might be that wee bit more supportive. And I think it's very important that you always kind of back one another up. Even if something happens within the group and you think, oh, I'm not sure I would have asked that, you kind of touch base on that outside of the group rather than in that dynamic, because you want to make sure that you're supporting one another and kind of cohesive in how you run and how you process the group.
And process what happened.
We had an instance where a group member had, he'd been ruminating on something that had been said the previous session, and he came in and he was very aggressive, sat very quiet, and at one point was actively kind of punching his chair. To the point where we were worried that other group members were going to interfere. Thankfully, we were able to have a chat. He was able to say why he was annoyed. We did ask him to leave and take a 10-minute break and then come back. And in that, he kind of managed to regulate himself and kind of calm himself down.
Person is asked to leave.
We had a group member attend who was exceptionally noticeably affected on heroin. So he was falling asleep in group, snoring in group, and that was very disruptive to the other group members, and the other group members were getting quite annoyed by it. So during one of the breaks, my co-facilitator stayed with the group, and I stepped outside and spoke to this individual and just explained that he couldn't actually properly consent if he was substance affected whilst in the group, and also that it was being disruptive and kind of against the group agreement, so he was asked to leave. And he did return to the following session, so it was done in a way that it didn't damage rapport, and I think the group respected that he was kind of held to account in that regard.
We have to expect that our clients are going to be using, and they're going to have lapses and relapses, and part of what we're trying to provide for them is an opportunity to address their substance use in real time and try some different strategies, and hopefully have the experience of being part of a group, having that sense of belonging, to try and encourage them to motivate themselves to, you know, reduce their substance use.